banker in London sends the latest stock info to A banker in London sends the latest stock info
A banker in London sends the latest stock
to
info
his colleagues in Hong Kong in less than a second.
to his colleagues in Hong Kong in less than a second.
With a single click, a customer in New York
With a single click, a customer in New York
orders electronics made in Beijing,
orders electronics made in Beijing,
transported across the ocean within
transported across the ocean within days
days by cargo plane or container ship.
by cargo plane or container ship.
The speed and volume at which goods and information move by cargo plane or container ship. The speed and volume at which goods and information
The speed and volume at which goods and information
move across the world today is unprecedented in history.
move across the world today is unprecedented in history.
But global exchange itself is older than we think.
But global exchange itself is older than we think,
Reaching back over 2,000 years along a 5,000-mile stretch. Older than we think. Reaching back over 2,000 years along a 5,000-mile stretch.
reaching back over 2,000 years along a 5,000-mile stretch
Known as the Silk Road.
known as the Silk Road.
The Silk Road wasn't actually a single road,
The Silk Road wasn't actually a single road,
but a network of multiple routes that
but a network of multiple routes
gradually emerged over centuries,
that gradually emerged over centuries,
connecting to various settlements and to each other,
connecting to various settlements and to each other,
thread by thread.
thread by thread.
The first agricultural civilizations were isolated places and
The first agricultural civilizations were isolated places
fertile river valleys.
in fertile river valleys.
Their travel impeded by surrounding geography and isolated places in fertile river valleys. Their travel impeded by surrounding geography and
They travel impeded by surrounding geography
fear of the unknown.
and fear of the unknown.
But as they grew,
But as they grew,
they found that the arid deserts and steppes on their border
they found that the arid deserts and steppes on their borders
were inhabited not by the demons of folklore,
were inhabited not by the demons of folklore,
but nomadic tribes on horseback.
but nomadic tribes on horseback.
The Scythians, who ranged from Hungary to Mongolia,
The Scythian, who ranged from Hungary to Mongolia,
had come in contact with the civilization
had come in contact with the civilization of
Greece, Egypt, India,
Greece, Egypt, India, and China.
and China. These encounters were often less than peaceful,
The encounters were often less than peaceful,
but even through raids and warfare,
but even through raids and warfare,
as well as trade and protection of traveling merchants
as well as trade and protection of traveling
in
merchants
exchange for tariff,
in exchange for tariffs.
the nomads began to spread goods, ideas, and technology
The nomads began to spread goods, ideas, and technologies
between cultures with no direct
between cultures with no direct contact.
contact. One of the most important strands of this growing web was
One of the most important strands of this growing web
the Persian Royal Road,
was the Persian Royal Road,
completed by Darius I in the 5th century BCE.
completed by Darius I in the 5th century BCE,
Stretching nearly 2,000 miles from the Tigris River to the Aegean Sea,
stretching nearly 2,000 miles from Tigris River to the Aegean Sea.
its regular relay points allowed goods and messages from the Tigris River to the Aegean Sea. Its regular relay points allowed goods and messages from the Tigris River to the Aegean Sea. Its regular relay points allowed goods and
Irregular relay points allow goods and messages
messages to travel in nearly 1/10 the time it would take a single traveler.
to travel at nearly one time the time it would take a single traveler.
With Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia
With Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia
and expansion into Central Asia through capturing cities like Samarkand,
and expansion into Central Asia through capturing cities like Samarkand,
and establishing new ones like Alexandria as Shah.
and establishing new ones like Alexandria Strait.
The network of Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian culture and trade. As Shah. The network of Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian culture and trade.
The network of Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian culture and trade
extended farther east than ever before, laying the foundations for a bridge between China and the West.
laying the foundation for a bridge between China and the West.
This was realized in the 2nd century BCE.
This was realized in the 2nd century BCE
when an ambassador named Shang Xuan sent to negotiate with nomads in the West returned to the Han Emperor
with tales of
sophisticated civilizations, prosperous trade,
prosperous trade,
and exotic goods beyond the western borders. Ambassadors and merchants were sent towards Persia and goods beyond the western borders. Ambassadors and merchants were sent towards Persia and India to trade silk and jade for horses and cotton. Along with armies to secure their passage. Eastern and western routes gradually linked together. Integrated system spanning Eurasia.
Into an integrated system spanning Eurasia.
Enabling cultural and commercial exchange.
Farther than ever before.
Chinese goods made their way to Rome. Causing an outflow of gold that led to a ban on silk. While Roman glassware was highly prized in China. Military expeditions in Central Asia. Also saw encounters between Chinese and Roman soldiers. Possibly even transmitting crossbow technology to encounters between Chinese and Roman soldiers.
Probably even transmitting crossbow technology
to the Western
world.
Demand for exotic and foreign goods. And the profits they brought. Kept the strands of the Silk Road intact. Even as the Roman Empire disintegrated. Kept the strands of the Silk Road intact. Even as the Roman Empire disintegrated. And Chinese dynasties rose and fell. Even Mongolian hordes known for pillage and plunder. Actively protected the trade routes rather than disrupting them. But along with commodities, these routes also enabled. The movement of traditions, innovations, ideologies, and languages. Originating in India, Buddhism migrated to China and Japan.
Originating in India, Buddhism migrated to China and Japan.
To become the dominant religion there. Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula into South Asia. Blending with native beliefs and Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula into South Asia.